The Lost Mermaid-Chapter 5. A week passed before we learned why Ferndale flooded. The ocean's high tide coincided with heavy rains from the mountains, bursting the rivers of Humboldt County. Farms looked like bushy little islands poking their heads up out of the water as the river continued to ransack homes. It barged through doors and windows like a robber, taking anything in its path. The torrent ripped and clawed, tearing barns off foundations, promising better days off at sea. Our farm had been badly damaged, too. A lot of our fences washed away, but we still had the milk and hay barn. The biggest mess was our pond. Upriver in Scotia, the Pacific Lumber Company's log pond had gotten loose. Logs like giant torpedoes had pulverized anything in their path. Our pond looked like someone destroyed a beaver's dam. If our property looked this bad, how would the rest of the valley look? I wondered if Ferndale would ever be the same. I called Dacia on our rotary phone. "Hello, Dacia." "Hi, Julie. Is everything all right over at the Cardoza Ranch?" "We're all right, but it's crazy around here. The floodwaters came right up to our doorstep, but luckily it didn't enter the house." "That's unbelievable. I'm glad you're safe." "Yeah, I know. How about you guys?" "You won't believe it, but my mom had the baby right at our house." "Oh my goodness, Julie. That's wild." Then she asked the question I knew was coming next. "Is it a girl?" "No," I stammered. "But he's adorable. He's got thick brown hair. He's so cute. We named him Benny. You'll have to come to see him." "Absolutely," she said. "I'm not sure when because we're really stuck in the mud." She laughed, like Noah after the flood, except we didn't get our animals in the ark. I laughed too. Just then, Mike and Wayne bumped me as they ran past whistling on their penny whistles they got for Christmas. The shrill sounds were driving me up the wall. "Just a sec, Dacia." Placing my hand over the phone, I yelled, "Boy, I'm on the phone. Please leave." The boys ignored me. They ran around the kitchen twice more until I booted them out. "Sorry about that." "No worries. They're hilarious. Sometimes, anyway." "What were you saying?" "I was telling you we lost some cows, but Dad thinks only 4. "Wow, that's awful, Dacia. I'm sorry." "Yeah, my dad's prize-winning jerseys." "Seriously, that's terrible." "My dad's sad, but he says all that matters is that our family's safe." "True." I paused, considering, then went for it. It was Dacia, after all. "I don't mean to change the subject, but I was thinking when the flood mess is under control, I want to have a party and invite JJ. "Great idea. But I don't know. My house is so small. What if no one comes?" "People will come. We could have a party at the pond." "Yeah, maybe," I said. "Swimming would be fun. But I'm not sure when it will be cleaned up. It's got a pretty bad logjam." "Dang. Well, I gotta go. My dad and I are going to check on the ranch in our tin boat." "Isn't that nuts?" "Yeah, it really is." "Well, see ya later, Dacia." "See ya." As we hung up, the little boys raced back through the kitchen with their stupid whistles. I had to get out of there. The big boys entered the kitchen to open up their science lab. They had pooled their money together, as I thought, and bought a chemistry set complete with a microscope for the Christmas exchange. They'd already destroyed the kitchen the last few days with their potions. I hoped they'd clean it up, but knew they probably wouldn't. My gift was a disappointment. It was a drab gray dress, not meant for church, but I could use it for a dance, and a box of Twinkies. Not the curlers I wanted. From the other room, Dad yelled, "This town isn't going to clean itself." "Boys, get in the truck." The boys moaned. I jumped to my feet. I rushed in with my shoes on and my sleeves rolled back, ready to work. I wanted to do anything to help after being stuck inside for so many days. "When are we leaving?" I asked. He shot me a stern look. We? He shook his head. You aren't going. Mother needs you. My face fell. But why? Why do I always have to miss out? I tried not to sound whiny, but the familiar irritation was back. Did he enjoy making my life miserable? I glared at him, trying not to shrink back at the dark look in his eyes. Don't talk back to me, Julie, he barked. I'm your father. Do what I say. My eyes burned as I was once again reminded I was the family outcast. I couldn't hold my feelings inside. Maybe I will when you stop treating me like I don't exist. Julie, my dad snapped, his eyes widening at the sudden outburst. But I kept going, still holding back tears as my emotions rose out of control. Well, I'm sorry if I'm not good enough for you because I'm not one of your 7 sons. I guess you forget your daughter has feelings too. Or maybe you just don't care. I paused to catch my breath, then opened my mouth to say more. A stinging slap to my cheek shocked me into silence. My skin burned like hot coals as I stared at my dad, blinking hard. I couldn't believe he hit me. You ungrateful brat, Dad yelled, his face red with anger. Stop being selfish and think about someone other than yourself. He stopped to take a deep breath, closing his eyes for a moment, then pointed to the couch. Sit, he ordered, and don't move. Silent, I nodded, feeling chagrined. I made my way to the sofa and sank down, looking deliberately away. I was so hurt and angry. Why did he treat me like this? He always shot me down. I never got to go out like the boys or do anything. They had adventures, but I always stayed home. I was a nobody at school, too. It reminded me of the rejection I felt every year when I tried out for the lead in the school musical. Even the school was against me. I was always in the chorus, never anything better. Not even one line of a speaking part. I hated my life. No one spoke as my brothers entered the room, filing through the front door. I hated my bedroom, which doubled as the living room. Every morning, I had to fold my blankets and stash my pillow to hide evidence someone slept on the sofa. My brothers got a bedroom, and they don't even make their bunk beds. There was nowhere for me to escape in this stupid 2-bedroom farmhouse. The door slammed shut, leaving me alone with Dad. Dale came in behind him and whispered something. Dad shook his head as he left to take care of it, muttering as he stormed off. I struggled to breathe as my hand crept up to my face, fingers grazing the hot skin where I'd been slapped. Dad was gone, so I could finally cry, but I was determined to not shed a tear. I didn't even whimper, although it stung and hurt to hold in my emotions. My dad was so mean. I would not let him make me suffer. I leaned back into my cushions, wishing I could escape or disappear. Why was my life like this? It was so wrong. In the other room, Benny began to cry. I sat on the couch for a long time, my muscles tight. I heard the crooning murmuring of Mom's voice calm Benny's cries as they faded into soft whimpers. Mom stepped into the room, holding Benny against her chest. I knew from the look on her face she'd heard everything. I didn't meet her gaze as she sat down next to me. Julie, she began softly, her hands brushing my arm. Your dad does care about you, but he doesn't know how to show it. I snorted, saying nothing. Mom sighed. Did you know he had a younger sister? The sudden change of subject caught my attention. I lifted my head in interest. I'd never heard about this before. She was your dad's only sister, Mom said. Her name was Heather. She was 15. Dad never talks about her. They were up at Patrick's Point, headed home from collecting agates when they heard a scream. She paused, eyes distant and sad. They looked back at the beach, and Heather and Sheba, their dog, were gone. Sheba was swept to sea. Heather probably jumped in to save her, but the riptide is deadly. No one comes back from that undertow. The only thing they found afterward was her dress. Dad wanted to go in, but his parents didn't want to lose 2 children that day. He has never been the same. He blames himself. He isn't willing to risk anything happening to you. I didn't know that, I muttered. He shouldn't have slapped you. It was wrong. Your dad isn't perfect, but he does love you, Julie. Your father's sister had red hair, just like you. You remind him of her. He wants to protect you. He feels like he failed to protect her. I said. Mom nodded as she rocked Benny. I watched his perfect little face with his upturned nose and closed eyes. I wasn't sure if I believed Mom. If my dad actually wanted to protect me, why was he such a jerk about it? My cheek still stung. It matched the burning anger churning in my stomach. Was it wrong to hate my own dad? Maybe, but right now, I didn't even care. Everyone expected me to act a certain way, but they didn't know what it was like to be treated like I was. Jules, I want to tell you something. I looked up into her compassionate eyes. You can't rest your self-esteem in a human's hands. At some point, everyone is going to fail you. Your brothers are not always kind, and your dad is hard on you. But there is someone who will always love you. Who? I said in jaded disbelief. God. He loves you more than you can possibly imagine. I resisted a groan. I know, Mom. If your life is pleasing to him, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. You can rest in his love and remember his approval is the only one that matters. I closed my eyes. But it's so hard, Mom. It feels like God isn't here. I know, she sighed. But he can be with you, no matter what. Humans are weak, frail, and imperfect. God is there. He will never let you down. I know that, but I don't know if God really cares about me. I rested my head in my hands. Why would he? How are your prayers, Jules? Fine. Then talk to God. Ask him who you are to him. Ask him, who am I? Listen for words, images, or impressions. She paused. If you make the effort, you will hear him. I guess I don't listen much, I said, considering my recent prayers. Don't close your prayer and hop in bed. Wait and really listen. When you hear something, ponder it in your heart. Okay. I'm sorry, life is hard. She sighed. I love you, Jules. She patted my shoulder again and got to her feet, carrying the baby to her room. I heard her distant voice sing a lullaby to Benny. How could my mom stay so peaceful and calm in our stressful house? She was more sleep-deprived than any of us, but still served from an endless well. I tried to think about God, wondering if he really cared about me. As I did, my thoughts wandered back to my dad. I was glad he was gone. I was so mad at him I didn't want to see him ever again. I didn't care if he had a warped way of seeing me because he'd lost his sister. I wasn't safe. I couldn't stay here. I wandered out to the porch, staring into the starry night. The breeze caressed my cheek, while gusts of wind from the pond billowed my nightgown, tempting me to run away. I felt something calling me, a voice of yearning, a cry for help. I walked out into the moonlight, knowing I should stay home and go to bed, but I had to get away. I stepped into the darkness to go to the pond. Arriving, my emotions melted away as I watched the inky reflections swirl the Milky Way's reflection in the water. I saw a faint glow coming from the faraway depths. I knew I shouldn't go in the pond, but I didn't care. I wanted to see what it was. I looked down so I wouldn't stumble on the slimy, wet rocks, but as I looked up, there was nothing there. It was probably just my imagination. After staring into the depths a while longer, I went back to the house and changed into my pajamas. Sitting, I reclined my sofa chair back flat and placed my pillow. I pulled the ottoman close to finish my bed extension. Sighing, I laid down and pulled the blanket over me, looking up at the creepy deer heads hanging on the walls. Eerie sounds creaked in our old house. I couldn't fall asleep, so I lay there trying to quiet my mind. I wished I had my own room. I hated sleeping in the living room, but our house was too small. It seemed like I was always the one that had to sacrifice for the team, so everybody could be all right. After a while, the back door creaked open. I heard Dad come in and pull off his wet boots. He walked in and shuffled around in the kitchen. I heard him come into the living room, so I acted like I was asleep. I didn't want an awkward moment with him. He paused, waiting a long time, then sighed, patting me on the shoulder, and headed off to bed.